All right, this is I'm going to tell you about probably my favorite upgrade I've made on my Honda Talon. I live in Utah, and I've got, me and some buddies own a cabin in Moab. We're down there 5, 6, 7 weekends out of the year, and we do quite a bit of rock crawling down there. I live in northern Utah, but and the Honda Talon is really a great rock crawling machine. It had a couple of frailties, and first of all, it had stock 28-inch wheels, and they were just not tall enough. The breakover angle on the Talon was such that you would drag belly all the time, and so, especially with a four-seater. And so what I found that I needed to do was give myself more clearance, and to do that, I ended up putting 32s on. And I ran 32s for the past 2 years, but the problem I found with the 32s is sometimes I'd come up to a ledge, and if all four wheels or 3 out of the 4 wheels were kind of hitting a ledge at the same time, and the buggy was full of people, like quite literally it just would not go. You're kind of on the lower end of that RPM spectrum, and it just simply wouldn't go. There's some tricks you can do by like kind of punching the gas a little bit or backing off it and maybe giving it a bump to get over stuff. But I was always frustrated that I didn't have enough torque at the wheel to get up some of that stuff. And so we do Moab and St. George, and there was a time where I was going up like this obstacle called You Gotta Be Nuts or something like that, and I had the buggy full of people, and it almost just stalled out trying to go up it. So I went back to 30s to give myself more torque at the wheel, and it's made a bunch of difference. Now, problem with that is I gave up clearance. So what I did is I ended up buying a kit off of the internet that does a suspension lift. And this kit, it's Perfex Industries is the name of the kit. It's supposed to be a 2-inch suspension lift. And essentially, you just add a bracket here, and that's really about 1 inch, but because the trailing arm, it's at the midpoint of the trailing arm, it's about 2 inches at the back of the trailing arm. But the happy coincidence, or the kind of the unintended consequence of that, is it gave me more threads on the shock barrel. And so, I wonder if you could see that. I'll maybe get my drill so you can see it. So, you can see that there's a little bit more thread. You're on the stock setup when you're setting the ride height without that extra bracket at the bottom. You're at the bottom of that that crossover. The crossover bands are so low that you don't have enough tender spring. So by virtue of adding that bracket at the bottom, I gave myself a little bit more real estate to take this black crossover spring. The crossover bushing and bring that up, and it gave me a little more tender spring travel, which has softened the back end of this considerably. So a lot of guys are getting aftermarket, like it's either a Shock Therapy or a Bandit or some sort of a aftermarket spring, and frankly that's probably even a softer ride, but this was the least expensive solution to give me a little bit better suspension. And also that raised the buggy enough that I could have enough clearance. I've got, I think, like 15 inches of clearance still. A couple contributed by the 30-inch tires, but also that lift, gave me another. I didn't want to get crazy in terms of setting the preload or the ride height such that it changed the geometry too much, but it gave me just a little extra inch of clearance such that I can get over the rocks. The other thing I did is in the initial 32s were on a 15-inch rim. I went to the 14-inch rim, and then because I got a little more carcass on the tire, I can set those at like 7 psi or a little bit lower psi and get a little bit of wheel squish to soften the ride as well. So. I was already in hot water for the 22 that I spent on it, and I couldn't really go to my wife and tell her that I needed to, get another, $5-6 grand for the turbo, or I needed to take this case apart and put a gear reduction kit in it. There's a lot of things that you can add that make these better. But in terms of a really inexpensive solution to give you both more clearance, keep the torque you need with 30s, and at the same time give you enough clearance to get over the rocks, this is the best money I've spent on the rig. So anyway, hopefully that helps somebody out there. The other, I guess I should point out the front too. Let me grab the grill so you can see. The front, a similar story. I do have again, this band, this crossover bushing I'm able to raise and have a little bit more threads on the shock barrel to also give a better ride up front. The front's not as bad as the, initially in the stock setup is not as bad as the front. But what this, I don't know if you could see the bracket, but this black bracket extends the shock attach point from here to over here. And that, basically, it's the same height vertically, but because it pushes the shock angle out, that's what gives it the 2-inch lift that way. And frankly, I think that in and of itself also softened the ride. So I was really pleased with how the ride, obviously not with the snowplow, but the ride quality, once I kind of gave myself a little bit more tender spring to deal with by using that lift kit. So anyway, can't recommend that enough. And it's really the most affordable way to get your buggy set up to do. I mean, this is a great rock crawling machine. Inherently, I just need a few adjustments and it's that much better. If you have any questions, I'm sure you could reach out to me if you'd like, but hopefully that helps.